surprise your sewing friends with a lovely small gift that you can make so easily and in no time using your old scrap fabrics or even recycled jeans or clothing that you no longer use and your pieces of scrap fabrics. I'm going to show you how to make this super easy, very cute. They will laugh when they see this pincushion saying please enter your pin here. We've got a small one and a larger one, and if you've got a 4x4 hoop you will be able to make the small one and a 5x7 to make the larger one. We did some adjustments on the pattern to add an extra guideline to make it even faster for you so that you can cut it on the guideline. But if you are using the pattern with the guideline, you will need a slightly larger hoop. So if you only got a 4x4 hoop, you will be able to make this pincushion without the guideline in the 4x4 hoop. If you've got the 5x7 hoop and you want to make the large one without the guideline, it'll fit. But if you want to use the guideline to don't measure the seam allowance, just to make it a little bit faster, you are going to make the small one inside of the 5x7 hoop, and you are going to take a 6x10 hoop for the larger one. So let's get started making our pincushion. We are going to do the large one inside of the 6x10 hoop. Now what will you need to make a pincushion? You don't need a lot of things to make a pincushion. You are simply going to use a piece of fabric that you want for the front, and you can be creative. You can use duck, you can use denim, you can use 100% cotton, whatever you would like. You can line it with denim at the back, or you can use 100% cotton, or you can use your friend's favorite fabrics. Whatever you want to use, you're going to decide what your front fabric would be, and then you're going to need a piece for the lining. It's always a good idea to use pre-washed fabrics, but in this case you're not going to wash the pincushion too often, so you can decide whether you want to use pre-washed or not pre-washed. A good idea is to use the color of your front fabric for the bobbin thread, because this is going to give you a much neater finish once you turn it around, so that there's not like white thread or another color that is sticking out. So I'm going to wind my bobbin with a navy blue that will look good with my jeans. Now I'm going to show you on the machine of the design what do I mean by guideline and one without a guideline. Right, so if I'm going to the little pocket of my machine and I go where my designs are stored, you will see that we've got 4 patterns, right? The one is enter your pin, and you will see that there's an extra guideline. I'll show it to you on the screen. And then there's the 5x7 one without the guideline. Then you get the 4x4 one that's got the guideline, and then the 4x4 one without the guideline. Depending on what hoop sizes you've got available, you are going to choose. If your hoop can fit the one with the guideline, it's easier to do that one. But if you don't have a larger enough hoop for it, simply make your pincushion and you're just going to cut the seam allowance and measure it. Alright, so let me show you the difference between one with a guideline and one without a guideline. So I'm selecting my 5x7 and I'm going to set it. Can you see that there's an extra guideline? You can see where the opening is going to be around your panel. Alright, and now I'm going to show you how it looks like without the guideline. I'm going to select the one without the guideline, and now you can see that extra where the opening is, there's no guideline. So this specific one, which is the large pattern for the 5x7, will fit in the 5x7 hoop. But if you're going to have the extra guideline, you will up the size of the hoop and you will go for the 6x10. So I'm going to select my pattern for the 5x7 with the guideline, meaning I'm going to use the little larger hoop, 6x10, and I'm going to set my pattern, and we're ready to start embroidery. So I'm going to, I already did my bobbin thread the same color as my denim, and you can use any thread, that embroidery thread you want to use. You can use polyester, rayon, whatever thread you want to use, and match your bobbin thread with the color of your fabric just to get great results. So I've hooped some medium weight cutaway stabilizer. You can also use no-show mesh or perforated cutaway, whatever you've got available. So I've just hooped a piece of medium weight cutaway stabilizer, and I'm going to run our guideline. Remember, we are stitching the one with the guideline to make it easier to cut around, to make it just a little bit faster. You can see that this is our guideline, and since it's a nice and dark color, if you would have used white, it's a little bit harder when you're going to turn it around, because that's the line that you're going to cut on at the back. So this was a good color to use, and we now need to take our piece of denim or whatever fabric you want to use to embroider the front of your pincushion. I'm taking my denim and it's right side up, and I'm just going to cover the guideline, and I'm going to start stitching. Now you will start stitching the details, and you're going to decide which colors you are going to use. And I decided on using a white color or a cream color, and then a pink, and I've got a different pink than my little numbers. So you're going to decide which 3 colors you're going to use, and we are going to stitch out our details. We have now stitched out the keys of our pin pad, and now it's time to put the numbers and the little letters on it, and I'm using the darker pink, and we're going to stitch that. Now that our keys of our pin pad has got some numbers on, it's time to do the lettering in a softer pink color that I chose, and we're going to stitch out the lettering. Right, I'm taking 100% cotton, pre-washed, and what you want to do now is take the right side down, right? And you right side down, simply going to cover your little pincushion, and the machine is going to run our tack down for the lining. And we are done with the embroidery part. Can you see that I've used the same color as my bobbin for my lining? Once we are done with our pincushion, you will see how neat it's going to look because it's the same color as my pincushion. So let's go and finish up our pincushion. We are done with the embroidery part of our pincushions, and let's finish up our pincushion now. Now what I did, I went ahead and I did another pincushion to show you the difference of when it's got the guideline and when it don't have the guideline. So if you only have a 4x4 hoop or a 5x7 hoop, you can still be able to make these pincushions. If you want to make the one in the 4x4 hoop, there's no space in the 4x4 hoop for having that extra little guideline. But the guideline makes it easier because you can just cut on it, and there's nothing wrong with doing it this way, right? So if you would have the 5x7 and you don't have a bigger hoop than a 5x7, you will just measure your own little guideline where you are going to cut. All right, so if you want to do that, you can see if I would measure my guideline, you would see that it's basically at the opening part, it's 1/2 inch that you are going to measure and 1/4 inch around your template, right? So if you are going to use one that don't have the guideline already stitched up because your hoop restricted you from that, all you would like to do is at the opening you are going to have a 1/2 inch, and you're just going to connect that, and that will just help you where to cut. And then very easily you're just going to dot. If you can eyeball it, that's perfectly fine, but just to give you an idea, this is basically what you want to do. Is you want to go around and you are going to trace your own guideline around it, and then you can cut around it, and it's going to be the same as this one where the embroidery machine already did the guideline. But we're going to do the one that already have the guideline. So all you want to do is from your cutaway side, the stabilizer side, you're simply going to take your scissors and you're going to cut right through all the layers, the front layer, the lining, as well as the stabilizer. Just make sure you grab all the layers, and all I'm doing is I'm just going to cut on that line that the embroidery machine stitched out the guideline. So I'm cutting out my little pincushion on the guideline, right? So you can see that if you are using a smaller hoop and you don't have this guideline already stitched, you can simply eyeball it, and 1/2 inch at the opening, 1/4 inch around the rest of the pincushion. So I'm just going to cut it out on my guideline. So we've now cut out our little pincushion. You can see there's the lining side. And all you want to do now is you want to trim away some of the excess fabric at each of the 4 points, so that when you turn it around, it helps not to be too bulky. But you don't want to go too close, just trim near, right? So you trim some of the excess so that you get a nice and neat turnaround on the points. Just trimming away some of the excess bulk. It really helps when you turn it around not to be too bulky. Alright, okay, and now we're ready to turn our pincushion around. And I used denim fabric, so you kind of like want to help the denim a little bit. So you first want to make sure that you don't pull it on the lining side, so you pull your stitches out, kind of help it a little bit, starting to turn it inside out, right? can take any turning tool that you are using just to help us a little bit, turning it inside out, going into each corner. Whatever turning tool you are using, it's good. Turning our corners. Right, there's already looking like a little pincushion. And then all you want to do is you want to take some batting and you are going to fill your little pincushion with some batting. Alright. You can decide how stiff you want to stuff it. So I'm just stuffing it, starting at the corners. And I'm telling you, this is so easy to do. You can do more than one in a bigger hoop, and the machine can stitch it out and you can finish it up in no time. Great way to recycle old pillow stuffing. Alright, and there I am. It's nice and stuffed. Okay, and then all you need to do is you need to finish it up. And I like to use this little quilter clips to help me. You just want to line up your front and your lining nice and neatly, lining it up, and these clips will hold it, right? And now you can decide, you want to top stitch closing the opening, or you're going to take some cotton and a needle and simply just stitch on the edges nice and neat. This one was hand stitched, so you can hand stitch it or you can use the top stitching, whatever is easiest for you. And that is your completed little pincushion, and you're ready to enter your pin. Isn't that fun? So go grab those extra scrap fabrics and start making this lovely little pincushions for your sewing friends.